Here is a 700-word, single-scene story based on your title. The rain had finally stopped just before sunset, leaving the neighborhood washed clean. I stood on my porch with a mug of coffee, watching puddles shimmer beneath the orange sky. Across the narrow driveway, my neighbor, Emma, struggled to carry groceries while balancing an umbrella that was no longer needed. I hurried over. "Need a hand?" She smiled, though it looked forced. "I've got it, mostly." One of the bags split open, sending apples rolling across the sidewalk. We both laughed as we chased them down. "Looks like the apples wanted freedom," I joked. Emma laughed for real this time, a warm sound that made the gloomy evening feel lighter. But when we reached her porch, I noticed a faint bruise near her wrist. She quickly pulled down her sleeve. "You okay?" I asked gently. She hesitated before nodding too fast. "Just clumsy." I didn't believe it, but I knew better than to push. As I turned to leave, a loud voice exploded from inside her house. "Emma, what's taking so long?" Her smile vanished. "I'm coming," she called back, her shoulders shrinking. The front door opened before she could reach it. A tall man glared at her, ignoring me completely. "You can't even bring groceries in without making a scene," he snapped. Emma whispered, "I'm sorry." He grabbed the remaining bags from her hands and disappeared inside, slamming the door hard enough to shake the windows. For a long moment, I stared at the closed door. Emma looked at me with embarrassed eyes. "I'm fine," she said. I took a slow breath. "No," I replied softly. "You're not." She looked away. I wasn't trying to interfere in someone else's marriage. I wasn't trying to be a hero. But every time I saw her lately, she seemed smaller than the day before. Before going back home, I said the only thing that felt honest. "Emma." She looked up. "You deserve better." The words hung in the quiet air. She blinked several times as if trying to keep tears from escaping. Without saying another word, she stepped inside and closed the door. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Maybe I had crossed a line. Maybe she would never speak to me again. The next morning, I was making breakfast when someone knocked on my front door. 3 quick knocks. I opened it. Emma stood there wearing jeans, a hoodie, and a determined expression. Beside her were 2 large travel bags. "I hope I'm not too early," she said. I stared in surprise. "What happened?" She looked back toward her house. "He left for work an hour ago." I nodded slowly. "And?" She took a deep breath. "I kept hearing what you said." I stayed silent. "No one has ever told me I deserved better," she whispered. "Not my parents. Not my friends. Not even me." A tear rolled down her cheek. I realized I'd spent years convincing myself this was normal. She glanced at the bags. "So, I packed." "You left." She nodded. "I don't know exactly where I'm going. My sister lives 3 hours away, but I needed somewhere safe until she gets here." I stepped aside immediately. "Come in." Relief washed across her face. Inside, she sat at my kitchen table while I poured 2 cups of coffee. Neither of us spoke for a minute. Finally, she smiled. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "You didn't rescue me." I frowned. "I didn't." She shook her head. "You just reminded me that I still had the strength to rescue myself." Those words hit harder than I expected. Sometimes people don't need someone to solve their problems. Sometimes they only need one voice telling them the truth they've forgotten. Outside, a car slowed in front of her house. We watched through the window as her husband stepped out, looked around, and realized the driveway was empty. He pulled out his phone. Emma's phone buzzed on the table. She looked at the screen. Then she pressed one button. Block caller. She set the phone down and released the deepest breath I'd ever heard. For the first time since I'd met her, her shoulders weren't tense. She wasn't looking over her shoulder. She wasn't apologizing for existing. She simply smiled. The morning sun poured through the kitchen window, filling the room with light. Her future wasn't certain. There would be difficult conversations, legal paperwork, and painful days ahead. But none of that mattered as much as one simple truth. She had finally chosen herself. And sometimes, the bravest journey begins with nothing more than 2 pack bags, a knock on a neighbor's door, and the courage to believe 4 life-changing words. You deserve better.